Hey, watch people, Cameron Martell from Watches You Can Afford. It's been a while. It's been about a year since I last did a video. I had to take some time off and collect myself. Also, I had to have a couple of surgeries on my shoulders because I don't know how to weightlift properly, and that was a lesson learned. But anyways, I am back. Now, shout out to everybody that reached out to me here on the channel and on my website asking what was up with me. A couple of you asked if I was okay. That felt really cool, I have to say. I didn't realize there were people out there that actually gave a care about this guy. Thank you. Now, if it's your first time checking out Watches You Could Afford, I love to review affordable watches that offer a high value proposition, something different, something you can feel great about on your wrist. And today I've got something really cool on my wrist. Oh, maybe not. I forgot today's not review day, but I am going to be talking about a brand that I have recently become acquainted with, and the more I explore, the more I like. That brand, Liv Watches. Now, you may have heard of Liv. They actually ran some of the most popular and successful watch Kickstarters of all time. The first one that I reviewed in December, the GX1-A. This is a 42mm Sellita SW200-1 powered automatic, sporty styling, very comfortable, excellent construction. I actually called it my favorite microbrand watch ever. And I followed that with a review earlier this month of the Rebel. This rectangular case is again Sellita powered, and it's kind of polarizing. Some of the reviews out there, they don't really care for the styling. Some of the reviews really love the styling. I personally am a big fan. I think it's something different, and I'm really stoked to have it on my wrist. Anyways, I thought today would be kind of cool if we explored who Liv is, what they're about, and whether or not Liv is for you. So, shall we? Let's do it. Now, before we get into what Liv is all about as a brand, I thought we'd talk about the two watches I've reviewed so you can appreciate where my perspective is coming from. Here's the GX1-A automatic, 42mm, Sellita SW200-1 automatic movement, Swiss Luminova BGW9 lume, and the sandwich dial, a multi-layer dial, unique at this price point. Super love that. Now, let's take a moment and appreciate that dial. Sporty, almost aggressive, but not quite. The hour markers, those sky blue accents, that's actually cut out in the dial, and I'll show a photo in a sec that really showcases that. Orange accents, you got a bit of a red accent there as well for the logo and the crown, and that inner ring, that inner dial is actually a little bit lower than the rest of the dial. That's the multi-layer sandwich dial. In effect, it gives the watch depth you can't get from a flat dial. Now, you can't call yourself a luxury Swiss-made automatic watch. Well, you can, but you shouldn't unless you have the finishing to match, and we can see here that the GX1-A does. It lives up to that. There is no problems on the hands, any of them that I can see, and we get really, really close. This is actually behind a 90mm Tamron macro lens, and everything looks great, and you can actually see the shadows in those hour markers. That's what I was talking about. That's cut right into the dial. Then there's the case. It's got that badass knurled bezel. I really like it. It makes this watch look and feel tough, like this thing could walk through walls or something. It's also got a screw-down crown, which seems a little overkill given the 100 meters of water resistance rating. The logo on the crown, along with the accent, though, engraved well, filled well, and that thing looks like it was milled out of a solid piece of steel. Really well done. Now, when you turn the watch over, there is a very tastefully done caseback showcasing the Sellita SW200-1 movement in all of its glory, and you can say the Liv library is sitting right there on the rotor. Now, Sellita has a history manufacturing, finishing, all that fun stuff with ETA, so when they created the SW200-1, it is effectively a clone of the ETA 2824-2. Very good movement, 38-hour power reserve. I really like this movement. Now, before we move on to the Rebel, I wanted to call out that I really believe the GX1-A could go anywhere. So here I am at the top of Sulphur Mountain in Banff, Alberta. It was minus 28 degrees Celsius when I got up there. What can I say? I'm Canadian. I was built for this kind of stuff. And the Liv did not skip a beat. It handled it just well, and if it can survive here, it can probably survive just about anywhere. Now let's spend some time talking about the Liv Rebel. Now, this is powered by the same Sellita movement. It's a 41mm rectangular case, so it does wear a little bit bigger. Feels a little bit bigger than your typical 41mm case. And this one also under $600, although as of the time of this video, it's currently on sale for $530. I do want to call out, though, that the only color combination still available is the Cosmic Gray that I have here. Now, Liv's got a thing for sandwiches, because like the GX1-A, the Rebel's got that sandwich style, gives it a lot of depth. Now, this one's a little monochromatic. It's got the orange accents, but otherwise, we're gray and white and whatever. But I think it looks good. Maybe not quite as good as the GX1-A, not gonna lie. I really quite like how that dial pops, but this one's got its own style, and I appreciate that just the same. Earlier in the video, I talked about how Liv uses the cutout for the hour markers, and that's actually cut into the dial, so you can see the accent color underneath it, right? You can really see that here in that 12 o'clock marker. You can see the edges of the walls. They're uniform. The same is true with the other hour markers. I really like it. I think it's a great effect. Check out that side profile. This thing is 14.3 millimeters tall, and you can really see that when you get dead on like this on the side. It is built tough, it feels tough, and this thing with the stainless bracelet, by the way, kind of hefty too. It could be a self-defense watch. Anyways, the crown, again, same comments. It's milled well, finished well, it's engraved and filled well. And the orange accent around the side of the case, I quite like, but I can see how that may be a turnoff for some. Looking at the Rebel from the back, the case back's not quite as tastefully done as the GX1-A, in my opinion. You can see that Liv logo is right on that sapphire crystal, and it kind of dominates the view. Now, I do like how it's got the production number. You know, this one's 124 to 750. Makes this one feel a little limited if that's important to you. Not something that really matters to me, but uniqueness is uniqueness. I did find a minor imperfection on the rotor underneath the 26 there, small scratch. Checked out the rest of the movement, though, and I didn't see any concern, so I'm not too worried about it, and it's been good so far. Remember earlier when I said it wears bigger than the 41mm case I would suggest? You can really see that here. Now, this may not be for my fellow wimpy-wristed people out there. I'm going to rock it anyways, although I tend to prefer it with a long-sleeve shirt just so it kind of adds a little bit of circumference to my wrist. I lost a little bit of weight as a result of not being able to hit the gym over the past 7 months or so. So my wrists have gone from 7.5 inches to 7 inches, so that's why this thing looks like a bit of a monster. I think the GX1-A and the Rebel make a pretty good case for the brand. Admittedly, I did find a finishing error on the Rebel, right, on that rotor. That scratch, only visible, by the way, using a macro lens and with a very specific angle of light, still is there. When I notified Liv of this, they were mortified. They offered to send me a new watch, no questions asked. I declined. And I declined because when I inspected the rest of the movement, I did not find dust. I did not find metal shavings. I didn't see oil that was out of place, no condensation. So I really wasn't too worried. And given the sub $600 price point of this watch and all the other things included, I mean, yeah, it's a little unfortunate. It's not ideal, but it's also not terrible. And I'm willing to forgive it given the rest of the watch. So let's move on to Liv, the brand. Now, Liv has an interesting story that I've actually yet to encounter with any other micro brand, and that starts with one of the co-founders, Sellita SW200-1. And by the way, Chaz, if I just butchered your name, I apologize. I'm a Canadian guy. I don't always have the best English. Anyway, let's move on. So Chaz, when he started Liv, had 22 years in the watch industry. He has been to Baselworld. He has been all over the place. He knows his stuff, and you can really tell that in his philosophy and approach to watchmaking. Now this handsome fella, that's Chaz. Now Chaz, like I mentioned, 22 years plus in the space, and if you listen to the podcast or read some of his blogs, he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder, particularly if we're going to talk about Baselworld, where he says, and I quote, "You fly to Switzerland, you spend $65 to enter the show, and nobody's going to talk to you because they're not a retailer, so you're there window shopping. Has nobody heard of the internet? I'm with you, Chaz." Chaz first hit Baselworld in 1995 and went back numerous times since. Now, the first time he went, apparently he was blown away, so he says, and the same was true over the subsequent years, but it was about 2007 when he started to feel disenfranchised. It's obnoxious. Do customers really need this? It's like way overdone, and brands are now pulling out. And, in 2019, Breitling, for example, pulled the plug. It got to the point where Chaz goes on record saying things like, "Baselworld is a total waste of time and money. The watch fair is dead." And in fact, he wrote a blog post on livwatches.com proclaiming one such thing. He pulls no punches, and I gotta say, it's kind of refreshing. But also at the same time, I can't help but ask, could you imagine pissing off somebody with the experience and know-how enough to start a successful competing brand? Well, the industry managed to do exactly that. In 2014, Liv's first watch, the Genesis Quartz, hit Kickstarter. Now, this was a Swiss quartz movement. It was the same style case you can kind of see on their new watches, and it was wildly successful, raising $190,000, well above its goal of 30 grand. And with that, Liv the brand and the Liv Genesis watch was born. In 2016, they're back in Kickstarter again, this time with the Genesis X1-A, aka the GX1-A that I have on my wrist. And like the original Genesis Quartz, the Genesis GX1-A automatic smashed its goal of $40,000, reaching $1.1 million. Now, Liv's not the kind of company to rest on their laurels, so they've followed the wildly successful GX1-A Kickstarter with a more successful Kickstarter for the Rebel, hitting $1.7 million on a $40,000 goal. And you know what? They're not done. They have another Kickstarter underway. The Rebel was followed by the P51 Pilot's Watch. This one came in many flavors, and again, it totally destroyed their $40,000 goal by 20 times, in fact, hitting just under $800,000. So Liv has proved that they're not a one-trick pony. They are at least a four-trick pony, but they are not done quite yet. Did I say at least four-trick pony? What I meant to say is at least five-trick pony. Now, on their self-made quote-unquote launch platform currently is the GX Automatic Ceramic Dive Watch, which has already hit $1.5 million in funding, and this campaign, as of today, still has about 3 weeks to go. Hopefully they'll send me one of these, because I gotta tell you, I've been looking for a new diver. So what's next for Liv? Well, they've got that diver on the way. It's still got 20 days to fund as of the date of today's video, and I'm really curious to see what they do after that. And I want to get my hands on that diver to see it's as good as they're saying it is. I'm pretty confident at this point, given my experience, that it's going to be pretty good, but who knows? Until I have one on my wrist, I am going to reserve judgment. But I have to say, I really do resonate with this brand. I love how they are contrarian. I like that they are actually doing things differently and not just saying that they're doing things differently like a lot of micro brands out there. Anyways, this is the longest video I've ever done. This thing took me hours to put together, so I'm curious to know your feedback. Did you find value in it? Did you like as I went through, the Liv history and the watches and my whole thing? Or would you rather I just stick to something short and sweet? You know what, Cam, this was way too long and I'm not watching this. I don't know. Let me know. Drop a comment below. Like, share, please subscribe. I know I took a break, but I am planning on reinvesting back in this channel. I miss it, and now that I'm not surgical Cam, post-surgical Cam, I'm feeling pretty good, and this is going to be more and more part of what I do. Thanks for watching. Cameron from Watches You Can Afford. Hey, have a wonderful day. One last thing. Before I close out, I do want to call out that Liv did send me both the watches that I talked about and reviewed today at no charge. They reached out to me, asked if I could do a review. I said, yay. I forgot to include that in one of the earlier clips, and it's important that you know that because I think you should always be aware of where your media comes from. I try to be as unbiased as possible. I'm not afraid to pull punches. I stand behind my content, but again, you ought to know what I know. All right, now actually have a